The notice requirement provided for the open public meeting law has been satisfied. Notice was properly given. Said notice having been transmitted to the Courier News on Friday, January 6, 2023, as well as posting on the city website. Can we please mute all our phones? If you have to take a call, please step out. May I have a roll call, please?
Council members Graham is absent during roll call. Councilman Good.
Present.
Councilman Hockaday.
Present.
Councilman McKenna.
Present.
Councilman Wyatt, also absent during roll call. Vice President Briggs Jones.
Present.
Council President McCray.
Present.
We have 5 members present and a quorum.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
Humbly we ask God, the giver of peace and the lover of charity, to give the entire family of nations true agreement with his will, and to grant the light of his spirit on all those who work for justice and peace. Amen.
Let the record show that Councilman Wyatt and Councilman Graham have arrived. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of July 10th, 2023?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? The floor is now open for a public hearing on the calendar year 2023 Plainfield amended budget. The floor is now open. Are there anyone? Seeing none, may I have a motion to close the floor?
Moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Consideration of public hearing, second reading, and final passage. We have ordinance MC 2023 to 24 through MC 2023-26, which are scheduled for public hearing and final passage for the regular meeting as advertised. Public comments limited to motions and ordinance to be introduced on first reading. A total of 30 minutes has been allocated for the public comments limited to resolutions and ordinance being considered this evening. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. If any member of the public would like to call in for public comments, please dial 646-558-8656. Enter the meeting ID 938-3643-9534. Dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. This information can be found on the city website as well as YouTube. The floor is now open. That's it.
Hello, good evening. My name is Dana Rucker. This is my first time here, so I didn't know the protocol, what to do. Oh, 763 Woodland Avenue, and I live in Plainfield. And the reason why I came in today is because I was really concerned about Woodland Avenue. I live
This is about resolutions and ordinances that are on the agenda
oh, okay.
right now. There's a
Yeah.
second session which you will be able to speak at the end of the meeting.
Oh, at the end of the meeting?
Yes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Can we let them in? Public comments in the gallery is now closed. Virtual is open.
Caller ending in 825, you can unmute yourself. Please dial *9 to unmute yourself. Okay, you've been unmuted. If you have something to talk about with the ordinances for tonight, please speak.
Hi, this is Mary Birdwinkle, 1785 Sleepy Hollow Lane. I have a comment on Resolution 301-23. It's that address on South Avenue. It's the Geo Keller Building. I hope that we are not planning to add another giant-sized apartment building on that lot. It's already a very stressed traffic area, and I think those four corners are especially suited to commercial buildings. My second comment is on MC 2023-30, which is the three-way stop plan for Central Street and Woodland. Since that already is a 25-mile-an-hour school zone, I'm wondering if it would be less intrusive if you just had no left turns from Central Street onto Woodland. That is going to snarl traffic up completely on Woodland. Thank you. That's all I have.
Point of order. I believe Ms. Rucker would be in order for her comment regarding Woodland, if she's talking about that ordinance.
Was she speaking about excuse me, Ms. Rucker, were you speaking about the three-way stop sign?
Oh, yeah. I've had 3 brand-new cars totaled in 1 year and 2 months. And
Come to the mic.
So, thank you. I live, like I said, on 763 Woodland Avenue, which is like maybe 2 or 3 houses from Central Street where the school is. And I park directly in front of my house. And I've had, in the past year, in 2 months, 3 brand-new cars, and I've had 3 cars totaled parking in front of my house. And I'm here today because I'm a homeowner, I pay taxes. 2 of the cars that hit me flipped over. I got pictures. They flipped over. And my last accident, I just bought a brand-new car in April of this year and made 1 car payment, and my car got totaled July 10. And now I'm scared to park on the street. And I have, the school's getting ready to open up, and the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. But, for a car to flip over, 2 cars that hit me flipped over. And all of this happened, the first accident happened in March of 2021, and I've had 3 cars totaled, brand new cars. So that's why I'm here today, to see what we can do about it. I did speak with Mayor Mapp and, just trying to find out. There was a detective, I can't think of his name, that I also spoke to. I even got petitions, people to sign petitions. It was just terrible.
Your comments there will come at the end of the meeting.
At the end, okay.
Yes.
All right.
Not about the
So,
three-way stop sign,
Well, actually, it probably would be a solution to her problem.
but she did not.
So
come
she
to
might
that.
be in favor of it.
No,
oh, okay, I thank you.
so, no more. May I have a motion to close public comment?
I'm sorry, I entered the room a little late. Cynthia Smith, 1038 Central Avenue. This is for the ordinances on the first reading?
No, this is for any ordinance and resolutions on the agenda for tonight.
Okay, so this is first reading ordinance. Did you pull the one for the PMEA?
It's a resolution that put it
Okay, thank you.
May I have a motion to close public comments?
Move.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Would the business administrator please present items for this evening?
Yes, Council President. Good evening, everybody. We have, the mayor and I have just one resolution. As was alluded to a few seconds ago, I am going to be pulling 285-23 off because we have further discussions to have about the MOA, so it's not ready to be ratified at this meeting. The other resolution that we have is granting advice and consent of a reappointment of Victoria Williams Brown to the ABC Board.
Any questions, Mr. Hachiday?
No questions, thank you.
Mr. Wyatt?
No questions.
Mr. McKenna?
No questions.
Mr. Graham?
No questions.
Mr. Good?
I have absolutely no questions, Council President.
Vice President Terry Briggs Jones?
No questions.
Do I have consensus to place this item on the agenda?
Yes.
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 Okay. Will the corporate counsel please present his item?
Thank you, Council President. I too have one item that I respectfully ask be removed from the agenda this evening. That would be 287-23, a settlement of a workers' compensation matter. I ask that that matter be removed from the agenda, and it will be resubmitted probably within 60 days. That leaves one item for consideration this evening, Council President, and that would be 286-23, which is an additional appropriation for our Labor Council, Hatfield and Schwartz. Thank you.
Mr. Councilman Hachiday?
No, we've been under negotiations for quite some time, so understand the need for additional legal services in order to get everything done, so, but no questions, thank you.
Councilman White?
When do we think that we're going to wrap up the negotiations completely?
Well, as you know, there are 5 bargaining units, and I can't, as I sit here tonight, give you a time frame for that. If there's requests for more specific information about individual negotiations, that would be more appropriate for an executive session.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McKenna?
No questions.
Councilman Graham?
No questions.
Councilman Good?
No questions.
Madam Vice President?
No questions.
No questions from me. Do I have consensus to add this to the consent agenda?
Yes. Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? Would the Director of Finance please present her items?
Good evening, all. I have 8 items for your consideration.
Councilman Hachiday?
So, 291-23, we're appointing Mr. Hamarillo as a official tax search officer. It's a good thing. I know Wilson's a hard worker, but also that the city, in many instances, needs to have speedy responses when people, when outside entities request tax certificates or tax certificate payoffs. It always benefits the city to have somebody who's a point person for that, and my hope is that it improves the customer service when dealing with that type of thing. So just in support of that. No further questions.
Councilman Wyatt?
Yes, 2 questions. One for Winston, will he be moving from the clerk's office to the tax office?
No.
So he's going to stay in the clerk's office and just do this duty? Okay. All right, and the second question was, I did have the opportunity to review the resume for Karina Rivera, so I do see that She does have some experience there, but I see that we are asking for a residency waiver. Did somebody not, were there nobody applied from the city of Plainfield?
Yes, there were about 10 applicants from the Plainfield, but this position is being groomed for the tax collector position. So we're looking for the qualifications and experience. And the people from, there was one applicant that did have
Can you
some
speak
experience.
into the mic, please?
Sure, that's fine. Yes, there were about 10 applicants from the city of Plainfield. This position is being groomed to take on the tax collector position, so we're looking for the qualifications and experience. Specifically, the CPC are in the process of going to do it. And none of those applicants had it, but we did interview one applicant that had some of the experience.
Okay, thank you. No further questions.
Councilman McKenna?
Yeah, I have two questions. One, and this is for the council president, R 288-23, since it is a council budget, how many of the suggested cuts from council members were in the budget?
Council members submitted no suggested cuts.
Okay, and with respect to the waiver for the assistant tax collector, what is the difference between her prior, or I should say current, or let's say the last two titles that she had, which is cashier in tax collector's office and senior cashier to assistant tax collector? And how does that vary from other individuals that could be groomed for that position?
Well, when we interviewed her, her specific duties, despite whatever her title is, what she described that she's currently doing matched what we were looking for this person that we're looking to recruit.
So you don't check title against title?
You could be listed as a cashier, but you're doing many other things.
I just want to clarify that in civil service, there are very limited titles. It's not like in corporate where you can pick, there's just tax collector, assistant tax collector, cashiers. That's it. So senior cashier would be right under the assistant tax collector. I also just wanted to point out that she has the tax collector certification and none of the residents did.
None of the residents did?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Graham?
No questions.
Councilman Good?
B.A. Levinson, thank you for clarifying that. No questions, Council President.
Madam Vice President?
No questions.
No questions from me. Do I have consensus to place this item on the agenda?
Yes.
All in favor?
No.
Which item are you?
288-23?
I was just going to note 288 has to be voted on because the budget has to be voted on separately.
So that's automatically out?
Yes.
All right. With the police department, please present their items.
Good evening, everyone. I have one item for your approval. Resolution authorizing approval to apply and accept a New Jersey Drive Sober Get Pulled Over campaign from August 18th, 2023 to September 4th of 2023. This is our annual DWI initiative that we do around the Labor Day weekend. It's something that we apply for every year. The funds are $8,750. This money is through a grant, so there's no negative financial impact on the city, and is usually very successful. That's all I have.
Councilman Hockaday?
No questions.
Councilman Wyatt?
Just one question. What is the grant allocated for? What are some of the things that the police department does during this time?
Well, it depends. A lot of times we use it for overtime, just for straight overtime, going out and stopping citizens, setting up DWI checkpoints, doing those types of things to, at these checkpoints, if we do a checkpoint, we may give out information or we may issue summonses, depending on what's going on. If a person is intoxicated, we'll give them some information, they'll go on their way. But obviously, if they are intoxicated, they go through the process of intoxication.
All right, thank you, Director.
Councilman McKenna?
Yeah, this is more of a procedural, so you're asking for the council to authorize applying for, and then if getting it, accepting the grant, correct?
That's correct. We get the grant every year. It's a procedural thing.
And when do you apply for it, since it says the campaign starts
We
in 4 days?
applied for it earlier this year. It's already an approval done. It's just we have to go through the procedure with you guys.
So is
so that we can use
the
it.
request to apply for not necessary in this resolution?
Every resolution that we have for a grant always states, every single one of them, apply and accept.
Does-
Is it common, though, because of the rolling dates of grants, that administration will apply and then retroactively ask for council approval to apply and accept? Absolutely.
Is
Happens
it
in
a-
every, all year long.
Is it a requirement for them to get council approval to apply?
Yes, yes.
So we apply without council approval? So
Yes,
it's
but we would not
really-
accept without a council approval. So we generally, we may apply before getting that approval, but understanding that acceptance is only upon.
Okay, so the apply is
the
not really a thing?
Well, if we did that, we may lose out on grant opportunities because it's rolling, because of the deadlines.
But
So
this-
oftentimes we apply with the understanding that really we're not going to accept this grant until such time as the council approves.
Although I will point out, this one happens the same time every year.
Okay.
Right?
I don't have the deadlines. But
Thank you.
Councilman Graham,
No questions.
Councilman Good,
None.
Madam Vice President.
No questions.
Do I have consensus to put this on the consent agenda?
Yes.
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 Okay. Would the Director of Public Works please present his items?
Yes, Mr. Council President, members of the council, general public, the Department of Public Works has 4 resolutions for consideration. R 297-23, authorizing solid waste and sewer utility to hold online auctions through gov.deals.com. Resolution R 29823, resolution authorized to submit to the County of Union for the Kids Recreation Trust Fund a grant in the amount of $60,730. Resolution 29923, resolution authorizing professional service agreement to Benoni Associates not to exceed $65,000. That's for design of Route 28, Rock Avenue to Clinton Avenue. And Resolution 300-23, authorizing approval to issue lien placements for cleanup, 16 properties totaling $19,006.55.
Councilman Holiday.
Just some comments, Director, just first, I like what you're doing. So, with the first resolution, we certainly, if we have any surplus or vehicles that are beyond repair, it's good that we're able to throw those on Gov Deals to get money for those items they're no longer serviceable. So that is prudent. I also appreciate seeing you applying for grants for kids. I see the Kids Recreation Trust Fund there. We're continually updating our parks. When I drive around Plainfield and I see our city parks in use by residents and especially children, it's something that certainly just warms my heart. So I like to see us continually investing in those because that's investing in our children. In terms of the lien placement, also just the other day, I was, it might have been election day or something, but I saw your team coming out doing abatements. It was an abandoned property, and there were folks out there cutting the grass, making sure that, even where, sometimes our residents fall short or maybe a property may be abandoned, that we still have the city that is able to come and abate unsightly properties. I think that goes a long way in terms of, our property values, how our city looks, the pride that we have in our city, the pride that other residents have in our city. It's just an important function, and I'm glad that your department is active and vigilant in doing that. So that's why these lien placements are something that I support. And most of the time, these lien placements aren't against, hard-working families. Most of the time, these are negligent landlords, people, landlords that don't live here, or people who have abandoned the city already, So it's important that we get these liens on the books so we can get our money back for the hard work that you're doing. No questions.
Councilman White.
Yes, 2 questions. R 298-23, as my colleague stated, it is great to see upgrades done to the park. However, do we have a way for the community to give input before that we do the work on the parks?
Well, when you say input, like a lot of things we're doing, like with this is like the upgrade to the basketball courts, at Siler Field, that's what this is for. But anything major, like when we do a presentation, we do ask for sometimes with input when necessary. A lot of things don't, I guess, require, respectfully said, some input from some of the projects that we're doing right now.
Okay, now I only asked because Bryant Park, looks beautiful when I rode by, but I did see some complaints about the basketball courts not being the same height, and that was the issue that they had before the park was redone. So I just wanted to ask, is there a way for the community to have input prior to us doing the work? And the second question was regarding R299-23. I know that we have been talking about this for a while, and it seems as though it's finally coming to fruition. Do we have a timetable as when the work will start from Rock Ave to Clinton Ave on West Front Street?
Well, right now, good question. Design work is taking place. They're designing everything, so it's just to add to design work to take it a step further. So we started one portion, yes. So all that's being done. Depart from on South Avenue, on East Front Street. We have an area that's being done already from Clinton Avenue to Plainfield Avenue. That portion is started. So this area between Rock and Clinton is starting now, just for design work, and then we'll go out to bid for the project. So it's just being designed right now.
Okay, so what's a rough estimate as when we will see this come to fruition and be complete?
Well, it's going to take some time over the next year or two. It's going to take, to get the entire stretch based on going out to bid, putting everything together, packages for each portion of it, because it's a long stretch. So each section we're going to have to go out to bid for with all the design work done. And then as we get to each portion, we'll slowly but surely start. Once the bids come in, we'll go out and mill and pave, weather permitting, based on weather.
All right, thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
Councilman McKenna,
No questions.
Councilman Graham.
Yeah, regarding the lien placements to clean up the properties, I've had to utilize this option a couple of times. I'm glad that it's in place. When our children walk our community, there are things that could cause trauma by what they see. And, our lots and properties being clean, that helps alleviate that. So I'm glad that this is in place, and I support this resolution. Thank you.
Councilman Good.
Yes, Council President, in regards to 299-23, Director Dabney, do you know when, I would say, from Grant to Clinton, will the work begin? When will it begin for that? Also, 297-23, I was trying to rack my brain. Have we ever done that before?
No, this is the first time.
This is the first time. Okay, all right. Although I do believe that there's some tweaking that needs to be done with some things. We are a work in progress. I would have to say that our parks have looked better than they've ever been for a very, very long time. And I'm sure that whatever needs to be done will be done. But can you tell me about that, the roadway for Rock?
Yes, I mentioned for design work was done.
Grant and Rock Avenue.
Front Street from Grant to Rock.
Right, it's in bad shape, and I was just curious because a lot of people are asking.
That's part of the process we're doing now.
Mm-hmm.
We're put design together, so it's going to be part of one area to get that done. So we're talking about a few months out now, because again, we have to go out to bid for everything. Design's being done, specification we put together, then we'll go out to bid for the project. Weather permitting, we'll see when we can start. Hopefully, maybe sometime this year, if not, early next year, but we're trying to get we're moving along slowly to make it right, though. Because there's a lot of design work being done, because these are curves, these are sidewalks, these are drains, traffic lights, et cetera. So there's a lot involved with this to make it right, detailed, the entire length.
Thank you, Director.
You're welcome.
That's it for me.
Madam Vice President.
No questions. Actually, I do want to say one thing. As far as the abatements is concerned, the DPW is doing a fantastic job of getting out there. The only thing I would like to see is, and I don't know if it happened or not, but to have the days shortened of the time limit of when this paperwork is put into place, because I know there's a protocol. The paperwork has to put into place, and then there's a certain amount of days. I would like to see the days shortened a little bit to get it out there because we have to hold these people accountable for keeping our city clean.
So we do have sometimes emergency abatements based on the condition of properties. We do that, but most of the time, like it's a 5-day window that we send out letters, et cetera, and maybe 10 days before it's done. But anything that's a major eyesore, we try to address right away. So when it's brought to our attention, we try to do some on an emergency basis.
Okay, thank you.
Do I have consensus to place these items on the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any objections? Would the Director of Economic Development please present her items?
Good evening, Council President. I have two resolutions to present tonight. The first one is a resolution for the planning board to conduct a redevelopment study. It's for the property 1203 to 1211 South Avenue. This is to looking at a property within our urban enterprise zone, and this would be to examine it as a redevelopment area for non-condemnation. The next one is 302 to 23. This is to designate Rodney Velez as a developer. This would be for the 129 to 133 Crescent Avenue property. It is Block 832, Lot 1301. This is in connection with a planning board request. On the last council meeting at Resolution 140 through 2322, we looked at the property for 140 to 146 East 7th Street. It required a subdivision of the block and lot 832 to 13. This is to designate the remainder of that lot for redevelopment in accordance with the TOD South redevelopment plan.
Councilman Hockaday?
Yeah, so it seems like for this resolution appointing Mr. Velez as a redeveloper, it's kind of just a procedural step that is need to be taken to get this redevelopment done?
Yes, this is a part of the redevelopment that would mainly occur on 140 to 146 7th Street. This was a requirement by the planning board to approve the subdivision.
Thank you.
Councilman Wyatt?
Yes, sure that you know, may have seen work that Rodney Velez has done in the past. So, one, what projects has he done, and do we know right now what he's looking to do on this property?
Right now, he's not ready to do anything on his property. It's not scheduled to be done. He is a general contractor in the city of Plainfield with a long-standing reputation.
Okay, so we don't know what the plans are thus far.
No, he's not required to do any redevelopment either. He has none yet.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman McKenna?
Yes, regarding 301-23, what are the proposed plans for that property?
This one is a study to look at it for redevelopment.
Right.
It's-
I mean, pardon me for interrupting. I'm aware of that. What I'm asking is what developer has asked us to do that study?
So we look at it for study in general. It's not necessarily designated for a developer, but it is looking at mixed-use development.
So for all the redevelopment plans that we've done for South Avenue, this one we just decided to do without any developer reaching out to us?
We are in conversation with other developers. Yes.
Okay. And then my other question is, so lot 1301, now 1301, as part of the, is now going to become part of the 7th Street property. It'll be combined into that property and will be subdivided from the Crescent property, which is lot 13, correct?
Yes, so the lot 832, lot 6, that's the one that's facing the 7th Street. And then there's a portion
The
of
sliver.
13 that's going to be cut behind the garage.
Which becomes 1301.
Yes.
Okay, now 13 will then become a smaller, smaller, but different shaped lot.
Yes.
Because we're not talking a ton of property there. 13 on Crescent, which faces Crescent, is part of the redevelopment plan, correct?
Yes.
Can we remove that from the redevelopment plan now?
It's already been approved as a part of the redevelopment plan as a whole.
But you can edit 13 now and take that out. We amend those redevelopment plans all the time.
The redevelopment plan can be amended.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Graham?
No questions.
Councilman Good?
None.
Madam Vice President?
No questions.
Do I have consensus to add this to the consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions?
No. 301-23?
What number was that?
301-23.
Ordinance on first reading. Would the business administrator please present the ordinances listed on first reading, MC 2023-27 through 2023-32?
Yes, sir. We are coming forward with 6 ordinances on first reading tonight. The first one is an ordinance that goes with the resolution I pulled earlier, which I plan to bring back at the next meeting in the second reading of this ordinance. This is a ordinance amending the salaries and wages. This is for our PMEA union, and this would be their new salary ordinance in their new contract. The second ordinance is an ordinance that would amend our code so that we would have an 8th department as is allowable under the code. And this department would be a Department of Sewer and Solid Waste. As you know, it's a huge division right now, many more people than in some of our other departments, and so we're looking to create a department there. The third ordinance that we have is a 2-part ordinance. The first piece of it is that the redeveloper needs to be an urban renewal LLC, so that's part 1. And part 2 is that urban renewal LLC will be getting new owners. The fourth ordinance that we have in front of you tonight, we spoke about a little bit earlier, we alluded to a little bit earlier. This is the ordinance that would designate a 3-way and 4-way stop intersections. This is on Woodland Ave, and this is because of, the Woodland Avenue issue that we're aware of in terms of what was spoken about earlier, and also with the Booker School opening up, we need to have safer school crossings in that area. The 5th ordinance that we have is another ordinance amending the schedule of salaries and wages. This is a request to add an additional title into the non-union titles. Currently, the only title that we have in HR that is non-union is the personnel director title. And as you know, negotiations have been very laborious and taking a long time, and so it makes sense to have at least one other staff in human resources that could be a non-union member and able to speak for the city in terms of negotiations and discipline. And our final ordinance today is an ordinance amending license permits and regulated activities. What we're looking to do is add a refundable cleaning deposit in the application process for permits. It's become very cost prohibitive for the city to go out and clean up after people have their events, and so we would be looking to collect a refundable deposit in the event that we have to go clean up after a permit holder's event.
Do I have a consent to add these items to the voting agenda?
They're voted on individually.
But you have to add them to the agenda.
Council President, they need to be voted on individually. Yeah.
He's just asking for consensus to actually add it to the voting meeting agenda.
To the voting agenda, that's all.
Yes.
Yes.
So
Any
what would a
suggestions?
no vote be?
Huh?
Make it to the agenda.
May I have a roll call, please?
Are we asking questions on these?
Sure.
Or we're,
Yeah. Would you like to ask a question?
I would like to, do you want to go in your normal order, or you want to just ask who's got questions?
We'll
on
start with you first.
Excellent. MC 2023-28, creating the new department. How will the billing work for the new department?
It'll be exactly the same setup as it is now. It's just going to be its own department.
Okay, and
It'll
then-
still be 2 utilities under the department.
Okay, and then is it a department or a division?
It's currently just 2 utilities. Now it will be a department
Uh-huh.
and then 2 utilities in the department.
Okay, and then how will the rates for each be set?
Nothing is changing in terms of rates, billing, everything will remain the same.
Well, the resolution does have a pretty lengthy section about a rate committee made up of numerous people. And one thing I didn't see in there is that any rate adjustments require council approval, which it currently would.
None of that is being amended in this ordinance.
And is there currently that rate committee?
A rate com-
And the reason I'm asking this is that we're well over a year since we abolished PMUA. And the
So-
local finance board at the time specifically said in the transcript that they wanted to know when the rates would be adjusted.
So
And
this
the
is what I-
administration said that they would be adjusted, and we're a year over
I got it.
now, and we have not done anything to show savings to the citizens.
So I explained this a little bit when we had our budget hearings. We have been very lean, and the rates have not changed for garbage pickup in the city of Plainfield under the PMUA or under the city since 2018.
Okay.
There's essentially nothing else you can purchase for a 2018 price. We have no intent of raising the rates. It's very hard to keep them at this low, at this rate, but we have no intent of raising them.
Well, I think the issue is you're calling those 2018 rates, but the belief is, and all kinds of research indicated that those 2018 rates were too high compared to other municipalities. So those 2018 rates were too high then. You can't hold those constant. And the reality is, if you're running lean, that means we've let people go, which means our overhead is down, yet there's no savings going back to the citizens.
Well, costs have gone up significantly, but I think we've gotten off of the path that we're on in this ordinance. This ordinance, the spirit of it is about adding an 8th department in the city of Plainfield and not about the rates.
So making it less lean, because you're
No,
going to now add
it's not
more.
adding any people. There's nobody additional. It's a big operation, and so it stands to be a department.
But it was a big operation at PMUA, and it was too expensive then. So now it's a big operation here, and there's no cost savings to the citizens. At what point are the cost savings that we're going to be? We've even got a shared service agreement, which is basically the city paying PMUA to pick up all the public trash cans. Well, the city's picking up public trash cans, so why are we charging shared services to
There's no
citizens?
shared services in this budget. You can review it again.
All right. I would like to know when the citizens can expect to know when they can have their rates looked at and have a discussion in public about it. That
We
was
look at the
committed
rates
to the, that
daily,
was
but we
committed
will
to
get
the
in touch
local
with you if
finance
we have an
board.
update.
It was committed to the local finance board as part of their questioning about approving the dissolution, and the administration has yet to live up to that. Even having a conversation saying we can't adjust the rates.
Noted.
Council President, may I respond, please? The budget process is a very open and public process. And everything that is passed on to the residents of the city, everything is presented to the residents of the city. You saw the process during the course of the entire budget hearing, which included hearings and input from residents, from the council, on the regular operating budget as well as on the utility budgets. The utility budgets meaning the parking utility, the solid waste utility, and the sewer utility. So there was an opportunity, there was input from a citizen budget advisory committee, input from residents, and so there was actually a hearing, a public hearing on all segments of the budget, the operating budget and the 3 utility budgets. And so we are very transparent, and the citizens have every opportunity to provide input. The budget that will be adopted, hopefully this evening, was done so with input, with hearings, and so we have met every requirement of the budget process.
Council President, I'm just going to respond to that, and I'm going to say that that the budget meetings are not particularly transparent, nor are they in detail. And it was asked many times during the budget hearings and in regular council meetings for the last year when the administration would have a public conversation about rates. And the comment was, and I can go back and find the transcript, was it would be forthcoming when we come to you with it. So let's just be clear on that. I know you can say that you're transparent, but let's not kid anybody.
Councilman Graham?
Yeah, I had a question regarding MC 2023-32. In the event there's garbage left and it exceeds $250, their deposit, what happens at that point?
Well, that's the situation we're currently in. But we didn't think it was fair to put more than $250. We don't want to prevent people from being able to use our facilities. So currently, we're just eating all the cost. At least now, this will offset some of that.
And let's just say an applicant who gets their application approved to use the park and they want to use our services to clean up because they may not have the means to haul away garbage bags. Do they have that option, and what would that cost?
That's not the business we're in. We're not looking to clean up after people after they have an event. It's not a service we're offering. It's just if the situation happens that someone leaves a mess behind and we're forced to clean it up, at least we can recoup some of the money.
Okay, those are my questions. Thank you.
Councilman Good?
I have no questions.
Councilman Hockaday?
No questions, thank you.
Councilman Wyatt?
Yes, on MC 2023-28, is this now in line with the state? Because I know when we were doing the budget, we had to make an amendment. So is this now correcting that matter as well?
Correct, yes. And that's actually the impetus for why we started thinking about this.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Vice President?
Yes, just two things. MC 2023-28, just a couple questions. Will the residents be able to write payments off on their taxes as far as the sewer is concerned? And also, does the city plan on hiring a new department head? And if they do, what's the salary?
So there won't be any, so the first part of your question is no. There is no financial change in this ordinance. The second thing is that there will be a department head, and that will come up for advice and consent at the next meeting when we read this for the second time, if it is voted yes on today.
Okay, so they can't write it off their payments or anything, right?
There's no change to the
Okay.
financial structure based on this ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Now, do I have consent to place this on the agenda?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, in favor?
No.
Six in favor, one opposed. Ordinances go on the agenda.
Yes. Now, we're going to skip the 5-minute recess and go directly into the, one councilman needs a 5-minute break.
All right, let's
We're
go.
taking a 5-minute break.
Recording stopped.
May I have a motion to come back into regular meeting?
Moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Recording in
regular meeting.
progress.
If any member of the public would like to call in for public comments on this ordinance, please dial 646-558-8656. Enter the meeting ID 938-3643-9534. Dial *9 to raise and lower your hand. This information can be found on the city website as well as YouTube. Consideration for public hearing, second reading, and final passage. Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2024 by title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2023-24 is an ordinance authorizing the City Council to amend and supplement Article 13 Fees, Chapter 17:1317, Special Food Hazard Areas. Fees of the City of Plainfield Municipal Code. It's hereby certified that the notice of the public hearing on this ordinance was published in the Courier News on July 11th, 2023.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. Do I have,
There's one person in the virtual room.
can you please let them in?
Caller ending in 825, can you please unmute yourself and speak on this ordinance? It should be *9. They lowered their hands. I think they didn't mean to.
Okay, may I have a motion to close public hearing on this ordinance?
Moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage?
So
And
moved.
if adopted, the ordinance shall be published.
Seconded.
As required by law. I would please ask you to let me finish reading the statement as it must be read into the record. Thank you. It was properly moved by Councilman Wyatt and seconded by Councilman Hockaday. May I have a roll call?
Roll call on MC 2023-24, which was moved by Councilman Wyatt, and seconded by Councilman Hockaday. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes.
Wyatt.
See,
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted with second reading and final passage.
Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2023-25 by title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2023-25, an ordinance amending the schedule of salaries and wages adopted pursuant to Article 14, Chapter 11 of the Municipal Code of the City of Plainfield, New Jersey, 1971, Firemen Mutual Benevolent Association, Local 7 FMBA. It is hereby certified that notice of the public hearing on this ordinance was published in the Courier News on July 11th, 2023.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. Anyone in the virtual? Seeing no one, may I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Roll call on MC 2023-25, moved by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Graham. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes.
Wyatt.
yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2023-26 by title and further certify that the ordinance has complied with all statutory publication requirements.
MC 2023-26 is an ordinance amending and supplementing Chapter 16, Article 7, for various four-way stop signal signs in the city of Plainfield. It is hereby certified that notice of the public hearing on this ordinance is published in the Courier News on July 11th, 2023.
The floor is now open to any member of the public who would like to speak on this ordinance. Seeing none in the gallery here, is there anyone?
No, currently no one in virtual.
May I have a motion to close the public hearing on this ordinance?
Moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, any abstentions? May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on second reading and final passage, and if adopted, the ordinance shall be published as required by law?
Moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
MC 2023-26, moved by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Wyatt. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on second reading and final passage.
Okay, we come to public comments limited to resolutions and motions, and ordinance to be introduced on first reading. A total of 30 minutes has been allocated for the public comments limited to resolutions and ordinances being considered this evening. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. If any member of the public would like to call in for public comments, please dial 646-558-8656. Enter the meeting ID 938-3643-9534. Dial *9 to raise and lower your hands. Mr. Clerk, would you please announce the consent agenda? Oh, public comments. The floor is now open.
Good evening. My name is Richard Luxley, 310 Hillcrest Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. Recently, there was a expedited displacement of 40 individuals and families.
This is not the time for that.
Oh, excuse me. I thought it was
This is
for that ordinance. My apologies.
At the end.
End of the meeting. Any,
Hey, good evening, Council President. How are you? I just wanted to ask, is this for MC 2023-32? Okay, so I just wanted to ask, yes, I do apologize. So my name is Azim Hassan Gray. My address is 1131 Dorsey Place, Plainfield, New Jersey. And I'm making this appearance courtesy of myself as a private citizen, not as a board member or elected official. So I just got a question in reference to the schedule of fees when developers or anyone who is a landlord needs to fill out a registration. Is a surety bond required for them to post when they file their registration? Surety bond. So is it required? Yeah. Is it a requirement, I'm sorry, in the registration process for a landlord to fill out a surety bond or post a surety bond? Are you familiar with a surety bond?
Council President, I don't know how it applies to the schedule of fees, which has to do with the $250 fee for permits. I'm not sure how this applies to landlords, and I'm not sure how a surety bond would apply to a landlord as well. So I'm struggling with the question, Council.
Okay, so the only reason why I ask that, because right now, public funds are being used to subsidize the developer's mistake. So McKinney-Vento funds are being required to pay for right now the mistakes of city council, okay?
Council President.
So I just want to be 100% clear that
This is not.
if you require,
That's
okay,
nothing to do.
Not back and forth.
okay.
You got your question answered?
I didn't get my question answered.
You may not like the answer you
Is
got.
is it through the registration process, are they required to post a surety bond?
You're out of order.
Okay, not a problem.
Council President, point of order, the, the resident should repeat that at the end. That would be the,
Seeing no more comments. Floor is now. No one go to it?
No, but they're
Okay. May I have a comment, public comments are closed. We will now move to Mr. Clerk. Please announce the consent agenda.
Yes, we have resolutions R-284 and R-286-23, R-289-23 through R-300-23, and R-302-23. Resolutions R-285-23 was removed by the administration. Resolutions R-287-23 was removed by the administration. And Resolution 288-23, dealing with the budget, will be voted on separately, as well as Resolutions 301-23.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
So roll call on the consent agenda items, moved by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Wyatt. Councilmembers Graham?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday?
Yes.
McKenna?
yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones?
Yes.
Council President McCray?
Yes.
Consent agenda items have been approved.
Mr. Clerk, will you proceed with reading the non-consent agenda?
Resolution 288-23, authorizing the approval of the calendar year 2023 municipal operating budget.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Right, vote.
Second. Whoever.
Let's roll call on Resolution 288-23. Councilmembers Graham?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday?
Yes.
McKenna?
No.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones?
Yes.
Council President McCray?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. The budget has been adopted.
Okay.
And we come to Resolution 301-23, authorizing the Planning Board to conduct an area in need of redevelopment for certain properties identified in the city of Plainfield.
May I have a motion?
Moved.
Have a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call?
Councilmembers Graham?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday?
Yes.
McKenna?
No.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones?
Yes.
Council President McCray?
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. Resolution 301-23 has been approved. That concludes the resolutions this evening.
We now come to ordinance on first reading. Clerk, will you please read MC 2023-27 by title?
Resolution 2023-27 is an ordinance amending the schedule of salaries and wages adopted pursuant to Article 14, Chapter 11 of the Municipal Code of the City of Plainfield, New Jersey, 1971, Salary Amendments, Plainfield Municipal Employees Association, PMEA.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmembers Graham?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday?
Yes.
McKenna?
Yes.
Wyatt?
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones?
Yes.
Council President McCray?
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, will you please read MC 2023-28 by title?
MC 2023-28 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield, County of Union, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 2 Administration by creating a new city department, Article 16 Department of Sewer and Solid Waste, and amending Chapter 3 Agencies, Boards, Commissions, and Committees by deleting Article 32 Sewer Utility.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call?
Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
No.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. Ordinance 2023-28 has been adopted on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, will you please read MC 2023-29 by title?
MC 2023-29 is an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Plainfield authorizing a transfer of a redevelopment agreement and transfer of a membership of 110 through 120 West 6th Street Urban Renewal LLC pursuant to that certain financial agreement and redevelopment agreement between the City of Plainfield and 110 through 120 West 6th Street Urban Renewal LLC, and authorizing the execution of an assignment and assumption agreement in connection therewith.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
Moved.
Seconded.
Question?
Go ahead.
Yes. How long is the pilot for this MC 2023 dash, oh, that's the wrong one, I'm sorry. MC 2023-29,
It's a 30-year pilot.
30-year pilot, how many units?
It's a total of a total of 71 units.
Okay, and do we have a percentage? How many would be affordable housing?
None would be affordable housing.
Okay, thank you.
May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call on MC 2023-29, moved by Councilman Good, seconded by Councilman Hockaday. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
No.
Wyatt.
No.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
No.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
4 in favor, 3 opposed. Ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, will you please read MC 2023-30 by title?
MC 2023-30 is an ordinance to amend and supplement Chapter 16 Vehicles and Traffic, Article 7 through street stop intersection, stop and yield intersections, designated certain 3-way, 4-way stop intersections, a 3-way stop intersection at Central Street and Woodland Avenue, and a 4-way stop intersection at Johnston Avenue and George Street, Central Avenue, and West 8th Street.
I will now entertain a motion to
Question.
adopt this ordinance on first reading.
Quick question. Ms. Levinson or Mr. Dabney, what's the time frame for the street change at Central and Woodland?
In terms of the street change at Woodland, because it's on first reading, it has to go.
No, sorry, not specific to the stop sign, the change, the proposed change to the curve of Central Street at Woodland. You all were at the PPAC for that presentation, right?
You mean the safe routes to school?
No, they're proposing, they did the whole study that we paid money for to change the shape of Central where it meets Woodland. Because now it's got an angle to it, and it is going to curve and go more at a perpendicular, or it's going to be a T intersection instead of that weird kind of Y. Seriously, nobody went up to the PPAC and saw the presentation by the engineers? It involves curving the street, adding property to the one house so that the street goes straight into Woodland, and then doing the safe paths crosswalks across Woodland. No, it's specific to that intersection, though. And that's what I'm asking you for, is what the status is for that change. Because the rest of them, it was only one other intersection.
I'm just familiar with the safe routes to school. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Councilman.
Okay, so let's go with that. At that intersection, what's the timeline for that change? And is the stop sign going to go in when that change is made or before, and then just be tweaked when it's done?
That's a grant that we just recently applied for.
So so it's going to have to go in before and then just be adjusted later?
Yeah,
Okay.
because, we know how
Thank you.
long those grants take, so.
I didn't hear what you said just now. BA Levinson.
I I said
Action.
that that's a grant that we just, remember we had the presentations at PPAC, and then we applied for the grant. But
Right.
that has to go through the process of receiving the funds and then working with the state to spend the funds.
Just a point of clarification, 3-4 council meetings ago, we've had this conversation because I brought it up at least 6 times. That grant was given to us in like 2017.
It's a
And I
different
was
grant.
told that it was, so
You're
Mr.
talking about the
Dabney, when
one-
I asked you what we spent that money on from 2017, you said you'd get back to me, and you kept saying you'd get back to me. And then at the last time, you told me this was it, and it took forever for the feds and the state to get on the same page, and so we're spending that money now. So as a takeaway, my question is, from the 2017 money, can you let me know what we spent that on for safe paths to schools? Because I haven't seen any new crosswalks. So if you could let me know for that federal grant, what we spent it on, I'd like to know.
Sure.
Thank you.
Pedestrian.
May I have a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading?
So moved.
Mr. Kennedy, second.
Seconded.
May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call on MC 2023-30. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, please read MC 2023-31 by title.
MC 2023-31 is an ordinance amending the schedule of salaries and wages adopted pursuant to Article 14, Chapter 11 of the Municipal Code of the City of Plainfield, New Jersey, 1971.
May I now entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading?
Moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call MC 2023-31. Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
No.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. This ordinance has been introduced on first reading.
Mr. Clerk, will you please read MC 2023-32 by title?
MC 2023-32 is an ordinance of the City of Plainfield, County and Union, State of New Jersey, amending Chapter 9, License Permits and Regulated Activities, Article 1, Bureau of Licenses, Section 5, Issuance of License, and Article 17, Schedule of Licenses and Permit Fees, Section 1, Schedule of Fees.
I will now entertain a motion to adopt this ordinance on first reading.
Moved.
Second.
Mr. Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Council members Graham.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Hockaday.
Yes.
McKenna.
Yes.
Wyatt.
Yes.
Vice President Briggs Jones.
Yes.
Council President McCray.
Yes.
That is unanimous. This ordinance has been adopted on first reading. That concludes ordinances this evening, Council President.
A total of 60 minutes has been allocated for all public comments to be presented. Each speaker will be allocated 3 minutes. If any member of the public would like to call in for public comments, please dial 646-558-8658. Enter the meeting ID 938-3643-9534. Dial *9 to raise and lower your hands. This information can be found on the city website as well as YouTube. All Plainfield residents will speak first. If there's any time any non-resident can speak after. The floor is now open.
Could you repeat that number again? You said 5'8", but the paper says 5'6".
It's 5-8.
Okay. This is wrong, then.
Give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Robert Edwards. I live at 510A West 4th Street, Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm a tenant in the Housing Authority of Plainfield's public housing program. I presented to the council June 12th that the Housing Authority is leasing electromagnetic radiated apartments without the public's knowledge. This is real brief. I have information specific to that issue. First, the fire department has articulated over the last, from January to December, that the alarm system sounded due to malfunctioning electrical wiring equipment for the entire year of 2022. I also brought a few pictures that were taken of the electromagnetic radiation that's running and flowing through my apartment, and I believe through all the rest of the apartments there. Living room, kitchen, bedroom. There's really no electrical, there's no TV, there's very minimal electrical outlets or equipment in the apartment. I brought this to the attention of the Housing Authority, and they said, oh, we're not going to even pay that any attention because no one is forcing us to. I was able to contact PSC&G, and they came in and they did, with their equipment, they confirmed the pictures that I just shared with you with their equipment. I reached out to the code enforcement. They came in, they looked at it, they said, we don't know what that is, and walked away. I went to the health department, and he said, well, we don't have any equipment to test it. And I speak to Director Letitia Velez, I believe, and she said, we don't have a code to address this. This is a public health and safety emergency that needs to be addressed immediately. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Dana Rucker, 763 Woodland Avenue. I was up earlier and I was telling you about the 3 cars that I got totaled on my street. I've been listening, and I see that there is going to be a I guess, 2-way stop there on 3-way on that street, and I appreciate that. I was also wondering, what about speed strips? Would that be a possibility? I know that the speed hump is out of the question, but I was wondering whether or not that would be something that could happen maybe down the road, because I did, like I said, I lost 3 cars in 1 year. These were brand-new cars, 2020, 2021. And like I mentioned, I also lost a car that I only had for 2 months. I lost that July 10th. Just bought a new car. I have not parked it on the street. I park on Central Avenue. I do have a driveway, but we have 3 cars there, so we're, going back and forth and parking on the grass because I can't afford to lose another car, and, I'm out like close to $14,000, $15,000 putting down payments on cars. So I need a solution because I am a taxpayer, and, it's just too much. And I don't understand. I thought maybe it was just me, but it's, they're speeding down the street, and the sign is posted there, 25 miles per hour. But if you go up before you get to, I think, Putnam Avenue or either, Watchung, it turns to 35. So we need 25 all the way down that whole street, and something needs to be done. Me being a taxpayer, and just the safety of the kids in general. So I was wondering, would the speed strips be an option? Okay, thank you.
Council President, I can ask a question of the administration on this. Speed,
Excuse
no,
me,
it actually.
This is public comment time.
Then you can
please.
pause it, because per
No,
this,
public comments time.
I'm sorry, Council President,
I'm in charge. Public comment time.
I'm
You
sorry.
will hold
let-
your comment.
If I can ask Corporation Counsel,
you're-
any council member or the
Council
president can,
has directed us to continue with.
but any
with
council
public
member
comment.
can make a comment after
Next-
a person has
next
spoken.
comment.
Yeah, have you read it's right in front of me. I'm sorry, I'm going to read it. It says it right here. I don't know how you can't, I don't know how you guys don't realize
Good
what
evening.
this
My name is
is.
Brian Giraldo on behalf of JBD Towing, 1022 Middle Avenue. The reason I'm here is because I'm trying to see if you guys reviewed the towing ordinance and the rates for the city of Plainfield. I have been a provider for the towing of the city of Plainfield for the past 15 years, and the rates are just antiquated. They haven't updated the rates since 2001, June 8 of 2001. I mean, the tow truck rate is $55. I present the proposal to the city clerk with the surround towns rates from Sky Plains and North Plainfield to see if you guys could help us out to raise the rates for the town, for the towing. And it's been over 22 years, and with the inflation, you can afford a tow truck. Tow trucks are over $85,000 to $120,000. You cannot get any tow truck with $20,000 or $30,000 nowadays. So I would like to take that into consideration to see if you guys could look at it. Like I said, I already presented to the clerk's office. I don't know what's going to be the next step. Thank you.
Council President, comment, and I'm going to read from what we approved at the beginning of the year. The presiding officer, as well as any council member, may respond to any comment after such speaker is finished. So what I would like to ask is that the administration compare our towing rates to other municipalities. And I would also like to address the resident on Woodland that speed strips are probably going to be too loud for your other neighbors as well as yourself. But the administration should check with the county, who has control of that road, to see if the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit can be implemented going south from Central Street towards Watchung.
Buenas noches a ustedes líderes y representantes y buenas noches a la comunidad. Mi nombre es Marta Lucía Gómez. Junto con mis compañeros y compañeras venimos representando la organización Viento del Espíritu.
Her name is Martha Lucia. She's here representing her organization, Wind of the Spirit, and she has some consideration.
What is her address?
¿Cuál es la dirección suya?
225 Watchung Avenue, Plainfield.
225 Watchung Avenue, Plainfield.
Y estamos acá, además, en solidaridad y preocupación por las 40 familias desalojadas.
She's here because of the condemned building at 501 West 7th.
Y queremos,
A reference to the families of the condemned building. That's what she's here for.
y queremos referir por lo menos dos preguntas,
She would like to ask two questions.
solicitarles su colaboración con estas precisiones. Uno, ¿por cuánto tiempo se venían dando las afectaciones de las viviendas antes del desalojo?
How long before sí, repito otra vez.
¿Por cuánto tiempo se venían dando las afectaciones en las viviendas antes del desalojo?
How long would the apartments been effective before the condemnation was in process?
Y segundo, ¿cuáles son las alternativas que las constructoras dan o darían para las viviendas que necesitan ser reparadas?
Las constructoras.
O sea, las empresas de construcción. No sé cómo.
How long would the construction will give them?
¿Cuáles son las alternativas que las
What's the alternative that
las viviendas
for
que necesitan ser reparadas?
for the apartments to be fixed again?
¿Puede repetir la pregunta, por favor?
¿La segunda?
Sí.
¿Cuáles son las alternativas que las constructoras dan o darían para las viviendas que necesitan ser reparadas, razón por la cual se dio el desalojo?
She is asking what are the alternatives that the companies are giving for the displacement, to fix the structure of the building?
All questions will be answered after every speaker has
¿Tiene algo
gone.
una pregunta de todas las
No, son las preguntas.
Sí, tú le vas a responder al final. ¿Tiene algún comentario que tiene que hacer ahorita?
No, pues que esperamos como organización, porque nos solidarizamos pues con las familias, queremos entender un poco de la situación, nada más, de cómo sería entonces la perspectiva de acomodación a largo plazo para las familias.
She's here in solidarity with the families that were displaced. She just wants to vent some concerns that she has. ¿Quiere? In regards to this, she just wants to get some clarity on what can be done to help them.
My name is Raymond Chase. I live at 1350 Marlborough Ave. I've lived there for 55 years, and I've been a Plainfield resident for 67 years. Now, my neighbor has a very large tree that is hanging over my property. The occupants of that house are renters, and I need to know who owns the property so I can have that tree fixed. I went to the tax office. They gave me the address. I tried to contact the owner. It is a bogus and a totally incorrect address. I have gone to the Public Works Department and the Tax Department, and they say there's nothing they can do. They showed me a copy of the deed, which has this address on it, and a post office, and my own investigation shows that it is a totally fictitious address. I have contacted several councilmen who do not answer my calls. I have sent 2 letters to the mayor, which have not been acknowledged or answered. I have contacted people in the mayor's office, and they said they would look into it. And so far, this has been going on for almost a year. I have no means of contacting my next-door neighbor to remedy serious potential damage to my property. This has been typically fighting the city hall. I would sincerely like some answer as to how I can get the legitimate address of my next-door neighbor.
Richard Loosley, 310 Hillcrest Avenue, Plainfield, New Jersey. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I too am in solidarity with the individuals and families displaced from 501 West 7th Street. In following the news, which is very scanty on the issue, I haven't heard of any reference to or mention of the city's obligations under New Jersey's relocation assistance law. I don't know if members of the council are aware of this law. And it is administered by the Department of Community Affairs, and they've put out a bulletin describing what they do under the law. And in reviewing that bulletin, I noticed several things. One is that the city is supposed to designate an individual to assure the city's compliance with its obligations under the law. And I would like to know who that individual is. I think the members who've been displaced would like to know who that individual is, so perhaps that person could be contacted to make sure that the city is complying with its obligations. Secondly, No later than 10 days after relocation, the city is to submit a workable relocation assistance plan, otherwise known as a RAP, to the Department of Community Affairs. There are many items of information required in this RAP, and I would like to know, since 5 or 6 days have already passed and there's a 10-day deadline, what the status is of this preparation of the RAP. Third, within the RAP, the city indicates whether relocation will be temporary or permanent. I think that's related to the previous woman's comments. What is the status of the city's determination of whether the relocation will be temporary or permanent? And fourth, within the RAP, the city can indicate actual or is to indicate actual or estimated relocation costs. And these relocation costs are reimbursed by the Department of Community Affairs anywhere from 50% to 100%. I believe I have summarized these items that were in the DCA bulletin correctly. So if the DCA, the Department of Community Affairs, is going to reimburse the city for providing relocation costs for these displaced individuals and families, I'd like to know if the city is indeed seeking those relocation costs and reimbursement from the Department of Community Affairs under the New Jersey Relocation Assistance Law, and for any amount of relocation costs that aren't reimbursed, will the city provide funding? Several years ago, there was...
Your time is up, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Ashley Davis, 109 East 4th Street. I am up here because I empathize with the residents of West 7th Street, but I'm also up here because they are not the exception to the rule, but instead, many renters in this city can and do experience what they experience. To realize that people would rather live in squalor than to not have anywhere to live is sad. But as a renter in this city, I understand where they're coming from. There are a lot of landlords, property owners who do not take care of their properties, and they also do not provide phone numbers or contact information for their residents to get in touch with them. The best they will provide is an address to send their rent. And it is my hope that the council will do their legislative function and pass legislation that will empower and educate renters in this city. As we begin to bring in more apartments, as we begin to bring in more rental units, we have to start to look at the renters in the city and allow their voices to be heard, and not just in times of crisis when the city has to condemn a building. I truly believe that everybody up here, from the council to the administration and the cabinet, wants the best for residents of this city and comes here to do a good job every single day. And to have to condemn a building and displace so many residents doesn't make any of you feel good. It's not something that you want to go home, and it doesn't make you sleep comfortable at night. But we have to begin to be proactive to some of the problems in the city, which includes making sure that renters are heard, making sure that their problems are addressed, making sure that they are seen and they know where to go to get the help. It could have easily been me in the building that I live in, but not for the fact that I was on the council and I knew who I can call. So I really hope that this body begins to craft legislation, begins to urge the county commissioners as well as the state to craft legislation to really look at renters not only in the city but around the state. That's my first comment. My second comment is the fact that when Commissioner Rebecca Williams was council president, the council purchased translation devices for people who English is not their first language to participate in the meetings. And the fact that those are not used today is kind of tone deaf when we look at the demographics of this city. To have residents have to use their phones to translate to participate in this meeting, it makes you all look tone deaf to what the city looks like. And I know that's not anybody's intent, but we have to look at what the actions actually are. To have a translator, no offense, come up here and not be able to translate for people, we're really disenfranchising people from having their voices heard because they can't even communicate with the leadership of the city. So I think that we just have to do a better job of really thinking about everyone and being better at every opportunity. Thank you.
Jack Jackson, 1200 block of Alton Avenue. All right, Jack Jackson, 1200 block of Alton Avenue. I run a community-based program that help with a lot of the crime reduction that y'all see right now. And one of my volunteers in my program was involved in an incident with an officer, and he's pretty, like, he's kind of illiterate, so when we went to go help fill out the complaint form, they were saying that he needed to know the specific officer. So I'm just asking, is there any way, when someone come fill out a complaint, the officers that responded, is there any way they could get a photo lineup? Because if he's complaining for an assault, he should be able to identify the person he's accusing. Just like if someone accused me of assault, they will pull my photo and put me in a lineup. So I'm asking for that. And also for like a caseworker or like a counselor, when someone come fill out a complaint against an officer, a lot of people don't know the process, and then they don't know the process of filling out for body cam footage or even just getting a response from internal affairs. So I'm just asking that y'all put in place some program for someone that's coming to file a complaint against the police, and also a way that they can get a photo lineup of the officers, because I've been assaulted by police, and it's like you can't really see. I don't know their names. I'm not familiar with the officers. And when we came to fill out the complaint and asked for photos of the ones that was on duty, I was told that the police department don't even keep photos of their officers, which that's kind of hard to understand when y'all take ID pictures. So that's my only thing. I want to put in place so when you come fill out a complaint and you don't know the officer's name, you can have a photo lineup of the officers that either responded or, you know what I'm saying, the intake officers. And also, the volunteer for my program, when he was booked into the city jail, if it was such a resisting arrest charge, why was he able to go to his cell with his shoestrings, his belt, and other things in his pocket, which I believe is like a violation of some type of law, because if you get booked into the jail, you can't, they take bonds all the time, so I guess that to keep you from hanging yourself or whatever. So I just want to address that right there, all right?
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Talia Mikado, 1018 West Front Street. I am a Plainfield resident for 25 years. I'm very young, but I have seen Plainfield change very much. It's not for the best. Plainfield will always be here, but us, the citizens, won't. Because these apartments, I was a first responder, cannot afford it. So I just want to let you know, children are 20% of the population, but 100% of the future. So like Hawkins said, invest in your youth, because if we don't, they won't be here just like we won't be here. So congratulations, MAP, you kicked us out.
Hi, Cynthia Smith, 1038 Central Avenue. As a lot of you know, I've been working in the city of Plainfield for 42 years. So I was here before, you know, all of you guys. I think AJ had just come into employ in the city of Plainfield when there was an ordinance that was repealed, that was pulled off the books, that addressed the type of situation that is going on at 501 West 7th Street. We have a lot of more apartments in Plainfield that meet that criteria. A couple of the residents in Joanne Hollis Apartments, they spoke to me from time to time. They had complaints. They have commissioners and everything. I don't know if their complaints have been taken care of. But if we don't get ordinance like that back on the books that give code enforcement the power to be able to go in and make inspections, we'll repeat the situation time and time again. But that's something that you need to look at. It's readily available, and we need to think about bringing it back so that people don't have to go through these things. It's sad when you see children outside, nowhere to go, no TV to watch, no games to play. Think about it and consider it. Thank you.
Good evening. Joshua Muhammad, business owner, 303 West Front Street. In the name of God, I too represent a small group of people in solidarity with the people of 501, 515 West 7th Street. We have a group of people who would like to donate hygiene-related products, moving supplies. We have companies who would like to donate their moving services and manpower to help the displaced residents at 501, 515. I have a question concerning, is there a point person to assist with getting information out on how these organizations and people can donate their time and services to help these people? So is there a point person in place? How is the information getting out to the public on how they can help? We hope that these people won't be forgotten. The reason why I got involved is I met a 77-year-old senior who lived in the building for 32 years. She's an older woman who lives by herself. And I asked her, does she have help in moving her things when she was put out within 24 hours notice? She said she had no one. So we got involved to help her. In that, when we started to move her, and I'm sure you guys seen the facility, you couldn't believe the squalor she was living in. The walls coming down. You can see the upstairs apartment almost through her kitchen. She was cooking in this place that's not fit for nobody to breathe air. It was horrendous. So like the brother said, I watched this man grow up as I grew up in the city, jogging around, taking care of his health. He's been communicating here that he has a health-related issue in his apartment. It's not being addressed. So who's going to speak up for the people who try to speak for themselves, but doesn't have a person in authority, obviously, to help him? He cared about his health. I watched him since I was this big, coming up in the city. And he's addressing because he cares about his health, but it appears that nobody else cares. His voice is going unheard. Who can the citizens go to seek assistance? Who's going to step up and help our elderly? To help the displaced immigrants from that building? From my understanding, this is a sanctuary city. Sanctuary implies God. It implies peace. From what we saw in that building, there's no peace in that building. And it's hard to find that a God exists if you live in a facility like that. Who's holding Cyclone Investment Group responsible? The violations have been going on for years. For years. So it's not limited to that group. There was owners before them who had violations. Hopefully these questions could get answered, and hopefully this man's issues will be addressed today. Thank you.
Back again. Z. Masai Gray, 1131 Dorsey Place, Plainfield, New Jersey. I'm making these comments as a private citizen, not as a member of an elected office. My comments do not represent the Board of Education nor its August members, superintendent, agents, at all. So first and foremost, I just wanted to ask the question of the Quality of Life Task Force. Were there any school board members on board, since it seems like the school board is bearing an inordinate amount of the fallout from this? So that's first and foremost. And if so, I would like to see some sort of legislation, some sort of response that will allow the superintendent to appoint a member of the school board for the Quality of Life Task Force. That's first. Second is that I would like to participate with City Council on a strategic planning committee for municipal code enforcement. I think there's a substantial amount of issues, especially when you look at city-maintained property. The Plainfield Housing Authority has similar issues to what we experienced on 7th Street. So I would like to see some sort of way to redress that issue. And last thing I have is, also, I'm interested in legislation which will limit developers from purchasing single-family homes. I think a lot of developers are driving up the rents here, and I think in order to stop that, you need to stop developers from buying single-family homes. Also, of course, you know, it was already mentioned about enforcing basic zoning code. Oh, no, it wasn't. So I would like to see basic zoning rules related to single-family housing units illegally subdivided into multifamily
Your time
units
is up.
addressed. Thank you.
You're not done.
Oh, I'm still up. All right. So hold on, stop my time. I got 1 more minute, right? Thank you so much, sir. All right. So also I noticed that the city has, so I think this is a little avant-garde and progressive. I know you all are conservative Democrats, but let me add this one. You should offer alternatives to renting like co-op based models that allow tenants to own the units. So I would like to see these immigrants, right, have the same opportunities that white immigrants had in order to actually own the units that they have. I think Cyclone Investments, or Cyclone, whatever, you know, horrible company they are, they've done a very poor job. And I think tenants should be able to own the property as if it were like a co-op model. I'm happy to work on city council with that as well. That's it.
Nancy Pivar, 1129 Myrtle Avenue. Most of you know that I grew up here and lived here and went through the Plainfield school system. I also am been sick since the news broke about 7th Street. I used to, years ago, deliver mail in all the neighborhoods, and I remember that building. It just seems to me that everything is local, but it's a systemic problem throughout this country. LLCs and corporations have a lot more rights now than individual private citizens have. It's beyond me how this investor, this owner, got a bank mortgage. The bank, whoever gave that money to that property owner, should also be held accountable for what happened there, because obviously no one did an inspection prior to a multi-million-dollar mortgage. It's public record. You can just go into Union County Land Grants and find out who it is, what bank in New York, Delaware backed that investor. In 2008, when the bank, we were in the mortgage crisis and bank crisis, they changed the law, and someone like me could not refinance my home equity loan without someone coming into my house and inspecting it. So why am I, as an individual, punished, and no one went into that building to find out what was going on prior to all this falling in the laps of the city of Plainfield and us having to clean up a mess? The bank should also be held responsible. Thank you.
Seeing no more in the audience, we will now move to. Well,
Hi, my name is Cynthia Slade, and I live at 1290 Worth Drive in Plainfield. And so I'm looking at, I've read somewhere that the state does an assessment and evaluation of multi-residential property every 5 years, and one was done recently on this particular property. So I'm trying to understand the follow-up, the interaction that the city has with the findings that the state came up with. And I'd like to know, evidently, whatever it was, it failed, because we should not have had to declare that this property was just kind of shut down in 24 hours. So I'm wondering what we're going to do in the future, because evidently we have other properties that are probably in disarray. So I'm wondering what our responsibility will be. And also, we are building so many apartment buildings in Plainfield that we have to have some sort of process to make sure that this doesn't happen in the future. So I'd just like to know what our plans are going to be to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, everybody. My name is Carmen Salabarrieta for Angels for Action, 209 West 2nd Street. Unfortunately, this was going on this year right now is very sad for the community, especially all these people who have no voice. They're not here because they're afraid to be here. They wasn't afraid, but they're going to continue because there's a lot of people is helping them and they'll be behind them. It's not fair what happened to all these people, a lot of children, sick. A lot of sick children was in that place. Like he said, it was an older people there too. Was no consideration to put it now. Unfortunately, this is not only one particular situation, it's many situations. We have people for Arlington Avenue, those 24 families were displaced 2 months ago. They are still in the streets. A lot of people live in some people's porch houses. They couldn't find no place. Unfortunately, they don't have no help. Now, a lot of the schools, some of the cities will come and they help out these people right now, but the other people don't. They don't have nothing. And they say it many times when they come out this weekend what happened. It's unfortunate this going on. I hope that all this going on, they kept in consideration to looking into the situation. I talked to the state say very clear, we come to inspect the buildings, we inspect them, but we don't force them to put people out. We enforce them to make sure this landlord fixes and repair what is had to be repaired, which is not happening in this situation. And as I said, because we can work together and we can help a lot, all these people. It's not needed to put everybody out. Look at what this landlord put a stepping out and they are working the building now, they go repair. So it's very nice that they come in and do it. But why? Because there was a lot of forcing help, behind all this situation. But I hope now that when they repair the building, they're not going to be renting to higher rent to another people. That these people can be able to go back to their places because they pay the whole rent for this month. They're not going to live in there. They also have deposits. And I hope you all will see that and make sure all these apartments, when they're being finished, give it back to the people. Also, you know that I have the organization in Plainfield. A car crashed into the building for the PNC Bank back in September. A drunk driver, no insurance, nothing. It was very difficult for the bank to take the decision to repair the building. They did the reparation. They did all the repairs. The builders fixed it up and put in the standard. A month ago, they was going to let me go back to the building to continue my community work. But the city came in and told them there was a lot more work to be done. But they put a lot of money and they repaired everything that was broken. So right now, they're going to close it in me.
So, your time is up.
So thank you. I hope somebody will have a voice and help me out because I work with the community for 50 years. Thank you. Thank you.
Seeing no more here, the gallery is closed. We now go to virtual.
Currently, there's no one with their hand raised in virtual.
Public comments are now closed. Mayor or Director, BA, would you like to comment?
Council President, while they're getting ready, can I ask a quick question? Okay, yes. One, I was just a little surprised that we didn't suspend the regular order of business and demand an apology. One, for the way that things happened on Tuesday, Wednesday, and also explanation as to what happened. Also, a presentation and a plan on how we're going to move forward. This is the first time that we're meeting as a governing body. We know why everybody is here, and it's kind of like we took the cowardly way out and just went on with our agenda like it was business as usual. So we're going to take this serious. I would just like to see those things addressed.
Council President, I have a question before the mayor. Maybe it'll make him be able to answer everything in one.
Go ahead.
So we've got a developer with 3 buildings, 3 properties that have had condemnations. And I'm going to do them in most recent to oldest. We've got 501 West 7th. It was purchased in October of 2021 for $14 million. When did they get their certificate of occupancy from the city? That's required. And it's almost 2 years. If they have not received a certificate of occupancy, then the city has as much blame in this as the landlord, who doesn't deserve any credit at all, by the way. I agree with Ms. Piowar's comments about how this bank, and this has nothing to do with the administration or the governing body, how a bank had an inspection of this property. This property did not come to look like this since November of 2021. If they closed in October 2021, this thing should have been in reasonably good shape, and it is far from that. So there's a problem with an inspection, there's probably a problem with an appraisal, and I would be curious to see how that would play out, and I think the city should probably make an effort to go after that, whether they urge the state to do that, or we do it ourselves. We go to court and spend taxpayers' money to try to sell these paintings. We can spend a little taxpayer money to try to protect the taxpayers. The next buildings, the next buildings that were condemned, most recent was in Arlington, 2 buildings. That building was purchased February 25th of 19 for $4 million. When did they get their certificate of occupancy, and how bad was that building that it's so bad that it has to be condemned now? Prior to that was 701 Kensington, which is 3 buildings. That building was purchased November of 2020 for almost $3 million. I know they didn't have a CO. I was involved when that was condemned, and I was helping individuals get their deposits back from this same owner, who then went quiet on me after I got a couple deposits back for people. That building was disgusting, and that building did not have a CO. It had not even had the inspection for the CO. So the city has as much blame as the landlord because we let them get by with this. Residents expect landlords to provide a quality living arrangement. Residents rely on the city to make sure it happens. And we are not living up to that. And by us just pushing it off on these awful capitalist landlords, they got tons of blame. And they look terrible, as they should. But we don't look good either. And then we go after the state. And we play games, and it's the state says it's the city. Who gives a damn? The problem is we've got individuals living in absolutely horrendous situations, and we're doing everything except having a conversation about it. The mayor, I will give you your opportunity to answer my question, everybody else's, and to go back to your early comment, let's be open and transparent and share all the information we have.
Well, good evening, council and residents of the city. There were a number of speakers who had questions and concerns about different issues and events that have occurred or that are occurring around the city. One person talked about the conditions at a Plainfield Housing Authority development. And what I do know about that property is that the Housing Authority has conducted a physical needs assessment with the approval of the approval of HUD, and they're continuing to look at, more specifically, the Grand Joanne Hollis complex, which is where the individual lives, and we are working closely with the Housing Authority. Many of you are familiar with what used to be on 2nd Street and Plainfield Avenue, and you see those residents are now living in very decent conditions, and our goal is to make sure that the residents at Joanne Hollis Gardens have the same opportunity. And so we will continue to work with the Plainfield Housing Authority as they work with HUD in carrying out a physical needs assessment to see what needs to be done at that complex. I had several conversations with resident Dana Rucker concerning her safety concerns in terms of traffic on Woodland Avenue and Central Street, and it's because of those conversations as well as because of the construction of the school and the concerns that we have, to make sure that that particular stretch of, not highway, but Woodland Avenue and Central Street, we want to make sure that we improve the traffic safety at that intersection. And for your information, Woodland Avenue is not a county road, but it's a city street. And so we will be installing three-way stop signs at that intersection, as well as looking to lower the speed limit so as to better control the flow of traffic. Our goal is to improve safety on all of our streets, and that intersection has been a trouble intersection. And working with DPW, our public safety director, we're going to make sure, I said public safety director, but I meant police director. We're going to make sure that that intersection is improved. Someone asked how long were the apartments a problem before the condemnation, as well as how long will it take for the apartment at 501 to be fixed. And I'm paraphrasing what was asked or what was said, and what can be done to help the families. We are, over the course of the last several days, to answer the last part first, we have provided a significant amount of assistance to all of the affected families, and every affected family that came forward for assistance has been provided with assistance, either temporary housing or permanent housing. Not one family has not been provided assistance. Everyone. To the point where the shelter that was open at the Plainfield High School, that was closed because all families have been placed in some kind of housing, whether it's temporary or permanent, but the goal is to make sure that every single family is placed into a significantly better housing condition than they had been experiencing. And we've had the support of Union County, we've had the support of the state of New Jersey, we've had the support of several nonprofit agencies that have been here on the ground since last week and up to today, and they will continue so as to provide wraparound services to all of the affected tenants from 501 as well as some of the other condemned buildings. And we don't do this by ourselves. The many partners that I mentioned, as well as this Plainfield School District under the leadership of Superintendent Rashawn Hassan, they've been great partners, and every family has been provided with breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we are taking care of the basic needs of the impacted residents of 501, 515, as well as Arlington Avenue. To date, we provided services to 61 families, and those families span 501, Arlington Avenue, as well as 515. So the services that we are providing are not limited to just the 501 building, but it goes across several of the buildings that are owned by these particular landlords. And whenever we become aware of an issue, whether it's at a single-family home, a multi-family dwelling, once the issues are brought to our attention, we respond immediately. And we became aware of the conditions at 501, which caused our City of Quality of Life Task Force to go in, examine the buildings, and we found that the conditions were such that no one should be living under those conditions. And many of you have alluded to that as well. And so once we are able to go into building based on complaints that we receive, we will do that. And the Quality of Life Task Force will continue to do that all across the city. And so this is not an event, it's a process, and that process will continue. How long will it take for the apartment building to be brought back to a state where people could reoccupy? The landlord has to apply for permits in order to carry out the work that needs to be done, and we know that that process is on the way. Mr. Raymond Chase from on Marlborough Avenue. My advice to you is that anything that, and this is not legal advice I'm giving you, but I do know this to be a fact, that anything that lies on your property, that hangs over on your property, is your responsibility, and you can cut those branches. That's what many homeowners do. I am impacted by that as well. I've had trees that have fallen on my property from the neighbor's property, and I've had to get my landscapers, remove it from my property. And so if it hangs over on your property, it's yours, and you can take care of it. That's the authority that you have to deal with that situation. Every property owner in this city, we know who those property owners are, whether it's an LLC or whether it's a name of an individual. And there's a name behind every LLC. And so we could find who the individuals are that own any property in the city of Plainfield. Mr. Loosely, he questioned relocation costs, reimbursement, and things of that nature. And we have provided assistance on relocation for the affected families. We are covering the costs of hotels. We are covering the costs of security deposits and first month's rental payment. These are the kinds of costs that we are covering as a result of this emergency. And a lot of the funding has been made possible as a result of our outreach to the state of New Jersey, and they're making available a pot of money to be used to make this situation right in terms of placing people into decent living situations. And the goal is to make sure that everyone is placed into a decent permanent housing situation. And that process continues. The wraparound services continue to be made available now at our PPAC, and we will work with every single person who comes forward. Whether you were impacted at 501 or not, it doesn't matter. The people who are currently still living at 515, they have availed themselves to some of these services, and the services have been provided, as well as some of the impacted individuals from Arlington Avenue. I'm just trying to recall all of the different. If one of the individuals, Mr. Azim Gray, asks about, Mr. Gray asks about no, I'm not talking about that. You asked if the developers are required to post surety bonds. And in response to that, I can tell you that surety bonds are usually posted by vendors who are hired by the city or who request permits to carry out certain work. For example, the cupola on the roof of City Hall, when the contract was awarded to vendor, the vendor had to put up a surety deposit. Some of these construction projects, when you dig into roads and when roads are being repaved, the contractors have to put up surety deposits. A redeveloper who is putting up a 5-story, 6-story building, surety deposit is not required. Vendors, contractors, they oftentimes, depending on the project, depending on the nature of it, are required to put up surety deposits. So this is something that we take very seriously, and the council usually has to pass a resolution to refund a surety deposit. Those are the things that I recall being asked, and I must repeat that there are 61 families that have been provided with services. 298 people were the beneficiaries of those services, and we will continue to do all that we can to get people out of the horrible living conditions that they find themselves in. And based on some of the monies that we heard mentioned as we were conducting these different press conferences, all kinds of dollars being, thrown out there. And what we can tell you is that some of the dollars that people have been paying to live in those conditions, they could live in any of these new developments that are being constructed. And so I want to make that point very clear. People who are being exploited, they feel like as though they have to pay these exorbitant sums of money to live in these horrible conditions, and they don't have to. They could live in some of these newly constructed residential buildings for the money that they were paid for these different landlords. So I just want to make that very clear. And we stand ready, willing, and able to continue to provide assistance. And there are a lot of things that are happening that we are not at liberty to say right now, but the landlords will be held accountable civilly and criminally. The landlords will be held accountable.
I'm sorry, but you missed one answer. When were the certificates of occupancy issued by the city for those buildings after the sales?
Okay. So I'm going to give a little bit. First of all, what I want to say firstly is that I want to reiterate the comment that was made earlier that this is a devastating thing for us to have to do, for us to have to go into a building, see conditions this bad, and shut it down is a devastating thing for this administration to have to do. And it's been a devastating few days for us to be out there with these people and trying to help them get some sort of a permanent housing situation. Many of us have been standing with the children, helping the kids, helping them. And so this is a devastating thing, and we stand with you in standing with them. The second thing I want to say is that, we became aware after this building was condemned that the state had inspected it in 2022 and that the city was not notified of that. We are currently working with the state actively to get legislation on the books by the state, which would require the state to notify a municipality when they've gone in and inspected a building and they've found something as egregious as that. That's one thing that we're doing to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I also want to say that when this first happened, we quickly provided our community development resources, as we do in any condemnation process. This is a large building, and so we were quickly tapped out of our resources that are available to us. That's when we partnered with the county and the state as per our relocation assistance program. DCA has been here in the city of Plainfield since Friday. They have been placing people actively since Friday. As the mayor said, by Sunday night, everybody who's come forward has been placed. We worked with DCA, and they still have their agencies here today at PPAC. They were there from 10 to 3. 8 state agencies placing individuals will be at PPAC tomorrow from 10 to 3 and Wednesday from 10 to 3. Those are not just for people who were displaced by the West 7th Street condemnation. Those are also for people who are in the building next door, 515 West 7th. It's also for the people who were impacted by the Kensington and the Arlington condemnations. So if you know people who are living in 515, they can also come forward and start to gain services for themselves. The last thing I want to say is that, as the mayor mentioned, we are working very hard to hold the landlord accountable, and we are working with DCA to recoup our taxpayer costs that we have put out and to recoup the money that the school district has put out. For point people, there was a question about point people. So if you're looking to make a donation, if you're looking to make a food donation, a gift card donation, if you're looking to provide meals, baby diapers, wipes, clothing, please come to PPAC. That's where we're accepting those donations. We're giving out clothes, diapers, anything that you would need for children, meals, everything is there. If you could come there between 10 and 3, that's when people tend to be there because that's when the state agencies are there providing their resources. So tangible goods would come to PPAC, and the point person there is our OEM coordinator, Kenny Childress. If you are looking for a point person for our temporary housing, that would be Director of Community Development, Shep Brown, and he is working in collaboration with DCA, because as I said, we've tapped out of our resources, and he's working in collaboration with DCA to use their resources and find housing for people. I believe that was all of the questions that I heard. One thing is that we will be looking into the towing ordinance that you mentioned, sir.
In case you didn't hear mine, I said it twice. When were the COs given to the 3 properties that were sold?
I'm finished.
When did they get their COs? Ms. Levinson? If you do a CO inspection after they buy the property in October of '21, the state inspection in June of '22 is less important. So when did they get a CO?
Okay, I clearly don't have that information on me, and I'll get back to you.
So you can email me that in the morning.
Sure.
Thank you.
Council President, just a quick question or a comment. So one of the individuals indicated that he wanted to lend his services or coordinate services. So Rashara Fuller works at Action Services and is participating. So I'll make sure you get her information. As you know, that they're set up at the PPAC at the times mentioned from 10 to 3. It is on Park Avenue.
724 Park Avenue.
Okay. So I'll have you talk with the Director of Social Services, and then we can ensure that the individuals that want to lend some time and muscle can do so. All right? And then the final comment in terms of, there was an individual that spoke that indicated he had an altercation with police. I believe in order to have a productive, healthy environment, that we need good relations between police and community. So individuals, if there is an altercation with police, I mean, they should know who the altercation was with. It's hard to believe that he was unable to find out who the officer was. Unfortunately, he didn't get the badge number, but hopefully, there could be cooperation with community and police, so that he at least knows who he had the altercation with, so you can file what you need to file. So we'll continue to talk and get that information. All right.
And to that individual, please speak to Director Abney so that you can follow up with you on that. Okay. Can I have a motion to? May I have a motion to adjourn?
Move. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No. Meeting is now adjourned.
What'd you say? He said, why you been packed up for an hour?